especially who is in charge of the D.C. Police Department.
Obviously, the chief makes all deployment decisions for the Metropolitan Police Department, and she is working with the federal teams, Mr. Cole in particular, when it comes to recommendations on deployment strategies for the federal
What's up?
officers.
What it do is Uptown Eon, DC Blacks. You know what the business is. Welcome back to the channel. Let's just jump straight into it, man. Everybody from the East Coast to the West Coast is talking about this federal takeover with Donald Trump in Washington, D.C. And I thought it might be some insightful information to talk to my viewers, because I wanted to make this video specifically for people that's from my city, Washington, D.C. But I appreciate the support of people from all over the country. So I also want to speak to people that's all over the country that may not have a real understanding of what's going on inside DC in comparison to what they talking about on Fox News or CNN. You know, now I seen on the news, I watch those things. They cover downtown by the Washington Monument, the National Mall.
Here, National Guard soldiers last night could be seen in uniform, some with Humvees. They were around the monuments and the National Mall. They were staying mobile for a time and then changing locations. Now, of course, D.C. is a big tourist town, and visitors are aware of what's going on. They've seen the National Guard, and they've heard that the president has taken control of the police department. Some are concerned about all of this and the visitors, but also people involved in tourism. They're concerned that this could scare visitors away.
I'm a guy that's from Washington, D.C. I'm from inner city Washington, D.C. I'm from Northwest Washington, D.C., but I've lived all over the city. I travel all over the city in the urban areas. For a person that's from Washington, D.C., a Washington, D.C. native, we rarely encounter U.S. police or U.S. agents, okay? Now, federal police are always here. If you hear me talk about how life is in DC, I always speak about it being 20 or 30 police agencies here, you know, for guys that come from the streets. One of the reasons why we operate a little differently than some people from other places that is because we're always under some type of law enforcement scrutiny here. However, the U.S. Marshals, most of the time in Washington, D.C., we only see them if we go to court or if we have a warrant. Secret Service police, Capitol Hill police, FBI, DEA, and U.S. Park Police. We may see U.S. Park Police. We may see U.S. Park Police if we ride through a park, right? But we don't really encounter them regularly here. We encounter the D.C. Metropolitan Police regularly here. So one of the things that's changed for a regular person to live in D.C. with this federal takeover is that when you walk down the street now in your hood, you go to the carryout, the liquor store, the gas station, as opposed to encountering the regular police or the jump out police, which is a vice squad looking for drugs or guns. Now, a person like me in the hood from Georgia Avenue to 8th Street to Southern Avenue, I see FBI, DEA, U.S. Marshals, Secret Service. I went in the gas station, Secret Service, plain clothes with the vessels in there. I went to the carryout 1 in the morning. FBI and DEA was outside with the Metropolitan Police.
The people's out. Asian chicken. They got the peoples out here. Yeah, boy, got them peoples out. This don't look like a ghost town. Got the peoples out there.
I also want to address 2 things in this video. That's one, who is really in control of the DC police? Now, Muriel Bowser has made several comments and remarks saying that Pamela Smith, which is the DC police chief, is still in charge. However, I'd like to challenge that. If the mayor and Pamela Smith, which is the DC police, had to go answer to Pam Bondi, then she's not totally in charge. Now, they want to say it's a partnership. Okay, cool. But who is really in charge, who Trump is calling the administrator, is a person by the name of Terry Cole, which is what this video is really about. I want to explain to people in D.C. and people from afar who is Terry Cole, who was in charge of the D.C. police, which is going to govern local crime in D.C. and what they are about. So, in general, for those who even care, Terry Cole has a long, over a 2-decade history and background in law enforcement. So this is what I want people to know. Terry Cole is overseeing the DC police force. Now, who is Terry Cole? Terry Cole is in charge of the DC police force, okay? When Pam Bondi was placed in charge of taking control of it, the person that they put in charge of actually running this stuff is a dude by the name of Terry Cole. Terry Cole is actually the head of the DEA, that's the Drug Enforcement Administration, okay? He was on the streets last night making traffic stops with the regular police, searching cars and arresting people. That's how serious it is, okay? Cole is the newly sworn in head of the DEA. So for people that's from different cities, you from Philly, you from Detroit, you from Chicago, you from Baltimore, you from Oakland, don't listen to all this stuff on the news that Trump is going to come in and take over. Trump may be able to send some National Guards into your city and post up and this and that, right? But Trump cannot take over your city like he's taken over our city, because our city belongs to the federal government. States have rights. So don't let CNN or Fox News or nobody scare y'all into thinking that, oh, Trump will take over our police department like he took over DC. He gonna do that in New York City. He's gonna do that in Baltimore, Chicago. Terry Cole. Let's get back to Terry Cole. So DEA taken down now. These are some of the other things that Terry Cole was known to do and has a history to do as far as his background, because I want people to understand what is his background and how it may impact the DC Police Department, okay? So he spent more than 20 years with the DEA taking down drug traffickers from Canada to Mexico to Colombia to Afghanistan, all right? He's also most recently served as Virginia's top public safety official. He spent 22 years with the DEA. He spent time in Colombia and Afghanistan and Mexico City. That was the other thing. So he well versed in some of this drug activity, drug trafficking and different stuff like that. He was part of this thing called Plan Colombia, where he was down there in Colombia covertly fighting drug cartels and this and that. And there's a lot of stories about this, articles written, where DEA agents were fatally shot and lost their life, and he was evacuated from Colombia because of this. So he done been through a couple things as well, right? He later served as a DEA supervisor in Dallas, targeting Mexican groups. He retired from the DEA. He retired just in 2020, and now he's back. He retired from the DEA in 2020 while serving as the director for Mexico, Canada, and Central America. He plans to use his background to have an impact on the DC police. So for people from DC, understand that the direction of the DC police, from the gun squad to the jump outs, NSID, everything may change. So don't get too locked in on this 30 days thing, because Trump has already filed or requested the Congress to extend it more. Regardless, this is what's going on in Washington, D.C. right now. Back to Cole. Cole at the DEA, this is the type of people he was in control of. DC only has a police force of like 3,100 people. He's in control of 10,000 employees at the DEA. As he serves as this federal administrator to the police, their main aim in DC is to crack down on violent crime. Now, if you look at the news want to make it seem like it's all peaches and cream. I've made a couple videos about it, and I'm going to constantly document the interaction between federal law enforcement and local law enforcement as they encounter Washington, D.C. residents. I've spoken to residents from Cleveland Park to Tacoma Park to Shepherd Park. All these people are in parts of Northwest Washington and say that they have not encountered these federal agents yet. But stay tuned to the DC Blacks channel. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think.
Tell the people feedback.
It's time for me to go. That's why don't come outside. Man, they deep as shit. God damn. Look at her talking about feet on land. Shit going on.
They not stopping nothing. What they doing? Tell the people feedback.
The White House today slamming Democrats, quote, despicable, calling them despicable as their criticism of President Trump's D.C. crime crackdown has ramped up.
Look, it's pretty clear the president wants his own domestic police force, and step by step, he's trying to create it.
I'm very concerned. The president is showing all of his authoritarian tendencies.
And take a listen to this exchange between a reporter and D.C. Police Chief Pam Smith today when she was asked about how this is going to work coordinating with the federal officials up the line.
Can you tell us what the chain of command is now?
What does that mean?
Well, is it Pam Bondi speaking to the mayor, speaking to you, or how does this work?
So the executive order is clear. The president designated Attorney General Bondi as his proxy to request services through me.
Okay, interesting moment there. It happened after a meeting today, really important meeting, with all of the officials that you see there on the screen, including Attorney General Pam Bondi, FBI Director Patel, and the head of the Drug Enforcement Administration, Terry Cole. Now, President Trump has tapped Terry Cole to command the Metropolitan Police Department to oversee the police in Washington, D.C., and he joins me now exclusively in his first TV interview since taking on that role and becoming head of the DEA. He's got a very long resume. He served more than 2 decades at the DEA, working all over the country in some of the hottest spots in terms of drug enforcement in Colombia, in Mexico, and in Afghanistan. Terry Cole, thank you for joining us today.
Good afternoon, Martha. It's great to be with you. Thank you.
Well, thank you for joining me. So this must have been an interesting meeting today because we know that the Washington leadership did not necessarily outwardly want anybody taking control of the Metropolitan Police Department. What can you tell us when you all walked in the room? What was it like?
So it was a great meeting today. Yesterday, I was with the chief of police on 2 occasions at the Metropolitan Police Department. We had a great exchange. We have direction, we have a vision on how we're going to reduce violent criminal activity in D.C. And today, it was a very good meeting. Once again, at 9 a.m., I was at the Metropolitan Police Department with the chief. We were strategizing our plan for today, staying very focused on violent criminal activity, reducing gun crime, reducing street crime, and allowing the citizens of D.C. to feel safe. And I have to say, I just left a meeting at the Metropolitan Police Department again with the senior leadership of the Metropolitan Police Department, along with all our federal partners. And it was very encouraging to see everybody at the table working hard together, planning the events for tonight to help make this city safe.
All right, so explain to us what's the role of, how does the role of the police department change? What's going to change now that there is federal control over the DC Police Department? What did you talk about that's going to change?
Well, I think the federal integration with the patrol officers and the uniformed police officers that, quite frankly, Martha, they just want to do their job. They want to feel empowered to do their job. I think with the federal government, with ATF and DEA and FBI and U.S. Park Police, all the entities bring so much power to allow the police officers to do their job. And the president was clear yesterday. We must empower, we must support, and we must always stand behind our police officers. We must always back the blue.
Terry, why did they not have power before you showed up?
I think that there's a lot of dynamics with the DC City Council that are concerning. But at the end of the day, we are there to support law enforcement. We are there for law enforcement activities. We are there to hold people accountable for their violent criminal activity. And, you know, just in the last 2 days, we've had 60 arrests that are very impactful. We've taken 17 firearms off the streets. Last night, we arrested somebody that was wanted for a murder. We have tremendous cooperation, tremendous intel sharing. And what's most encouraging, the police are looking forward to doing their job again. And Martha, I have to tell you, I've been receiving phone calls from all over the country of other federal agents that want to fly in and help. They want to be part of making DC safe again. They want to be part of this law enforcement effort, similar to what we did in Northern Virginia when I was the Secretary of Public Safety and Homeland Security for Governor Youngkin.
If I may, let me ask you just a couple of specific questions here. So, number one, is Mayor Bowser welcoming the federal oversight in her city?
I have to tell you that the chief of police has been very accommodating. I have an office there in the Metropolitan Police Department. Very accommodating to introducing me to the entire command staff. Very open to sharing ideas on how we're going to do this together to combat violent criminal activity. Make no bones about it. The president was clear with the executive order, and we are going to carry out the mission of the president.
I'm sorry to interrupt. If I just want, just a few things I want to get in here while I have your time. So if you arrest someone under the age of 18, we've heard Janine Pirro at the U.S. Attorney's Office saying the city council will not let me convict this person. What changes now? You talked about the city council pushing back. You know, none of those rules have changed, though. So if your guys are out there and women are out there and they bring in an illegal immigrant or they bring in someone under the age of 18, are they just going to take them in and then they're going to be released the next day? What changes where that's concerned?
So we're going to continue to work through the process of supporting law enforcement. In reference to interdiction of criminals on the street, specifically juveniles, that is a complicated issue. It does require a code change, but the president, the attorney general, Judge Pirro, everybody is committed to working to make these changes to hold these juveniles that are out of control accountable for their actions.
Okay, so if you arrest a 16-year-old who is, holding a gun to somebody's head, what is going to happen to that person tomorrow? Are they still going to be in jail, or are they going to be sent to one of these, as Janine Pirro says, where they're going to do yoga and arts and crafts classes? Because if that's the case, some of these people are going to be out on the street very quickly. How do you handle that?
Yeah, so they'll be booked into normal procedures. It is frustrating for law enforcement because they are encountering these same violent youth criminal offenders numerous occasions with handguns. But this is something we cannot turn a blind eye to. We must continue to support law enforcement. We must continue to have a unified effort. And now that the president is involved with making significant changes, we are eventually going to change the code, hold these criminals accountable, even at a juvenile age.
So, Terry, Mayor Bowser, as early as a few days ago, said we don't have a rising crime problem in Washington, D.C. In fact, it's declining. And they've been pulling out all these charts to show that crime is actually on the decline in D.C. So if that's the case, why was it necessary to bring in federal oversight of the D.C. police?
I think there's 2 points. The police do not feel empowered. We are there to support the police. We're there to help the police. We are also there the perception is it's not safe. People do not feel safe. The amount of citizens that have come up to me on the street and said, thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for taking on another responsibility. We appreciate the federal agents that are out there every single night. And now, starting tonight, we will be embedded with the Metropolitan Police Department. You will see federal agents working hand in hand on patrol with the Metropolitan Police Department. You will also see an increase of activity, patrol activity, in certain sectors to go after the violent criminal offenders that are the drivers of this crime. We cannot afford to turn a blind eye, Martha.
I know a lot of cities would like to see a greater presence on the street of police officers, and I'm way over time, but I got to ask you quickly, what are the duties of the National Guard in this situation? Because a lot of other cities are looking at this and saying, are we going to have this happen where we are next? What is the National Guard's duty?
Yeah, the National Guard is going to come in and assist law enforcement in a non-law enforcement capacity. There's so many different things that the National Guard can do that we experience in Virginia. They're a true force multiplier. They bring skills, they bring analytical work, they bring people that are dedicated to protecting this great country, and God bless our military.